Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Welcome back, everybody, to week 3 of a 2-week build. Yes, that's how it goes. We are going to be working on the Delta Flyer and the accompanying base for it this week. Hopefully it will take the whole week, but who knows. Over the weekend, I had a nice chat with Mr. Keith Tomlinson. Keith is the man behind Cosmic Scale Models. And he had watched the video from the week before. Kind of got an idea where I was going with my plans and says, I have just the thing for you. And I should have known it because it's right here on the back of his wonderful instructions for the flyer itself. He also makes a series of what I would call atmospheric set dressing, which is your container boxes, your cargo crates, things like that, and also some optional 1/72 scale figures. And he offers that through his site with the rest of his kits. And I was like, that's great, Keith, but I want to get this done, and postage between the UK and the US is not as fast as it used to be. And he says, I'll tell you what, I'll email you the STL files and let you print your own. And bless you, Keith, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to make a batch of those, and then I'm going to delete the files because this is your hard work, and I don't want them getting out past what I'm going to do. So I appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is it's caused me to warm up the big printer, which you might hear in the background, because I want to do a whole plate of them. It's the first plot, the first printing of 2021, because it's a big, huge printer, and because it has to vent outside, and because it's been colder than the dickens. I haven't used this printer since, I think, maybe mid-December, and here we are into March. So I'm fully expecting them to fail miserably, and if they print fine, then great, but if not, I'll make another run of it. Yeah, they're this tall, so the print, even on a full bed, is like 3 hours. I will tell you, the resin that's in that tank is about 3 months old. I have not cleaned it out. I swirled it, I remixed it while it was still there. Lord knows the FEP sheet probably needs changing. I've used the smaller printer throughout the winter because it doesn't need to vent to the outside, and I've had really good success. That's how I printed the top part for the back quarter of the flyer. But this is the first time warming it up, and we're supposed to have magnificent weather this week, so it's time to warm up the old printer for this season. So I figured was the best opportunity for it. So we're going to print some miscellaneous set dressing, and we're going to work on the base this week. I did do one thing over the weekend, and it was something that was kind of bugging me. I don't know how Canon it is, but I think it definitely looks better with it. I went ahead and I painted these areas, this and then the two side areas. I painted those a very light gray. There was just too much white going on the flyer, so I felt I needed to introduce a light gray in here. And I'm also working on the canopy because, as has been pointed out, I tried to sneak one past people. I tried to float a goof through, and that is this horrible step down between the two halves where they don't quite meet. I should have taken more time. I should have feathered in some more. No, I should have got it on camera. I should have feathered in more filler in between those two halves, but I didn't. It was a rookie move, and I apologize for it. You deserve better than that. But I am going to make up for it by adding a little bit of reinforcement to the bottom of the canopy on that side so that you won't have that gap when everything sits down. Hopefully 2 wrongs will make a right in this case. So I'm working on that. I'm going to put a flat coat over everything because it's the clear coat that's bugging me. If I flat coat everything, I'm sure it'll look a lot better. But getting it on the base, getting the base finished this week, that's our goal. So enough of me yakking on. Let's get on with it. Okay, I have to confess, this is a lousy print, but it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like I said, I did no cleaning, no maintenance. I swooshed up the resin in the tank and started it to go. And I got a lot more results than I thought. Of course, all the people are chopped in half there. But all those cargo cans, I got stuff here I can work with. Now, I knew this was going to screw up because I didn't hear any of the normal popping sound that you're supposed to hear when things are sticking to the feb sheet. So I did start a smaller batch in the other printer that I have been using, so hopefully those will come out better. But there's some workable stuff here, but for our first print of the season, not too bad. Okay, so I'm not exactly back to the drawing board, but I'm going back and I'm doing round 2 on these crates and set dressings for the Delta Flyer. And you know, I'm going back and doing it the right way, the way you're supposed to, raising things up, putting them on supports, hollowing them, putting drain holes in them, all the stuff I really didn't do on the first round, simply because I just wanted to get back into, you know, hitting the print button and letting it go. But this time I'm, you know, adding the supports where they need to. And the only thing I really learned out of the first round was the scale, whether they were big enough. And they may have been the right size, but they looked a little small to me, so I bumped up the size on some of them just to see how it looked. And so that's the real glory of 3D printing, is if you don't like the scale of something, you can size it up or down. So I've sent this to Slice, and I'm getting ready to send it over to the printer. I've also cleaned out. I dumped the resin back into a jar, and I'm going to filter that and mix it up really well, and then run it through a filter and put it back in the tub. I have cleaned out the vat. I've taken some alcohol and washed off the FEP and got it all squeaky clean, and you know, just all the stuff you're really supposed to do, you know, when you're doing it properly the first time. So we're going to see what kind of results we get out of that. It'll be another 3 or so hours from now. I do admit that I found a use for the prints of the people that don't quite work. You can always call them transporter accidents. Suddenly this guy isn't half the guy he used to be. I don't know why he cut off waist high and that was it, but that was all he got out of it. But like I said, what I was able to determine is that I needed to bump up the scale on these just a little bit. They came in very small for some reason, but easy enough to fix. Working on the Canopy, and this is the piece that comes with the kit, and as you can see, it's kind of milky. And when it comes to my canopies, I am lactose intolerant. I will not take a milky canopy. So I'm going to see if I can find some clear PETG that I've got here that I can use instead. It also comes with a blacked out version, which looks really sweet, and you can use that if you are not putting an interior in your kit. If you just want to have a blacked out canopy or a blacked out interior, you can use this piece, and I'm going to hang on to it because I think it might come into use in another model down the line. But that's what it would look like, which is really nice. Or you just call them really heavily tinted windows. But that looks super sharp if you are not putting an interior in. Really good. Like I said, more's the pity though, because that's the one I want to use. Okay, the Flyer's back in from having its final flat top coat put on. Looks much better. It gets rid of that glary gloss coat that, you know, doesn't make it look like it's in scale. And I'm ready to put this thing down, and I am still debating whether or not to put glass in there. I think I'm going to have to go ahead and do it. I just need to find some cleaner stuff that's not milky like this. So wish me luck. Okay, I've decided to go ahead and glue in a canopy, so I've got some canopy glue. Actually, I'm using micro crystal clear to glue that in. I found a sheet of clear PETG that was in relatively good shape, I cleaned it up a bit with the old Novus plastic clean and shine polish. Get rid of the minor scratches that was in it. Make them more livable. And now I'm just doing a quick cleanup. But it's been one of those great modeling days where you don't necessarily know what time it is, because you look up and the time has flown, because you've just been doing some solid good modeling. And happy to have that day after so many days, when it doesn't always go easy. So it's nice to have one of those good days. And let's see, printers are still printing second rounds on the cargo things. The landing bay itself is outside. I've got a coat of the, I've masked off the perimeter of it so that I can put caution tape down, or faux caution tape. And I have sprayed that trunk liner on the inside of the shuttle bay. I decided not to go with any sort of landing strip or stripes on it. I thought maybe it was appropriate back when I wasn't going to have the other kind of set dressing, but now I think that would be too much. So I opted to scale that part back. New results to show you. These are the semi-salvageable pieces from the first print off of the transform, and various forms of failure here. This is just basically the same file off of the small Photon S, and everything came out on this, and it came out much clearer, much better, better. And I put that down to the fact that the Photon is a smaller bed. It has less problems just around everything, because of the way that it acts. It's not lifting up an entire plate off of a huge FEP. But everything on this one came out much better. Now I still need to finish curing this, but I wanted you to see how the same file can act on two different printers. This is a portion of what this is. This basically, this file I duplicated 4 times on the big printer. So now I need to put this under the UV light, but I'll notice that all of the people came out this time, and nothing got cut off. So yay. Okay, so it's getting late into the afternoon, and I want to do a couple of things before we close up shop today. One is I'm going to take the tape off of the edge of the base that I've got here, so we can see what we're looking like, because that black paint was put down today. It's still kind of fresh, and I don't want to sit this tape on it for too long. But you can see how the trunk tape, or the trunk paint, is working out for the actual surface, or the actual majority of the launch bay, or the shuttle bay. Peel off this last piece here. Nice clean lines. I love a nice clean line. There we go. Okay, now we've got our nice clean shuttle bay. Shuttle will sit on top of it, like so. And we've got some of the beginnings of the set dressing here. Some storage containers, and we'll have some of these barrels and the like strewn about, something like that. I'm not going to go overboard with it, but enough to make it look habitated, and then we'll put 1 or 2 people in there with it. Lots of other work to do. I've got to put the back hatch on, I've got to put the ladder on, things like that. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow, painting up the props there. The canopy is in. The crystal clear is drying, oddly enough, it's drying crystal clear. And before I close this up, I'm going to touch the controls with another coat of clear Tamiya, because I had, when I sprayed the flat over everything, of course that covered that up, so we need to re-gloss them. And we're also going to gloss the glass parts out here on the outside. Well, good morning everybody. It's Tuesday. We're working on the base for the Delta Flyer. It's coming along nicely. Yesterday I got the perimeter painted, and then I painted the inside with the trunk spray. I really like that trunk spray. It just makes a nice subtle, almost looks like a carpeted pattern. I used it for the carpeting inside the Galileo, and it really turned out nice. Were I ever to do a model of the bridge, I think I would use, the classic bridge, I would use this for spray for the flooring on that, because I think it would be just the perfect scale for it. So today I'm going to be putting the caution stripes around everything. I've got them plotted. Look at how well you can see them on the paper here, but I've got them plotted. I'm going to put the transfer tape down now, and then I'll start sticking them to the perimeter of the black edge here. And then we're going to paint up what I printed out yesterday, which are the cargo containers and boxes of various sizes. And I don't know if I'm going to put any more people on there. I printed some people, but looking for a squeegee that I don't see. I printed some people, but I don't know if I'm going to use them. So that's where we're at on that. I'll paint them up and see if they look appropriate. I may have gone a little overboard on the scale of some of these set dressing items, but I'm laboring under the opinion. The squeegee was right in front of me. I'm laboring under the opinion that maybe a false impression that the Delta Flyer is smaller than it actually is. The Delta Flyer is huge, and as a result, I want to make the set dressings a little bit bigger, but maybe it makes them out of scale. I don't know. I figure something like that is fungible. They can make them any size they want to, depending on the amount of stuff they needed to put in them, which is kind of strange when you consider if they can replicate things on demand, why would they even need to have a storage container of anything? Unless it's like, well, today we're replicating, wrenches, so we need to have a tool set here. We're not going to replicate the whole tool set when we need it. We're going to replicate it once. I don't know. It's interesting set dressing. I try not to think too deeply on these subjects, because that way just lies madness. Okay, we've got the back edge done with the caution tape. Now, of course, I start on the back end, because if I'm going to screw up anything, I want to make sure I, don't do it on a part that's really noticeable and can easily repair it if I need to. Now, I've got enough strips cut here to do the rest of this, so I'm going to go ahead and carry on that way. Now that I know how everything is going, I can go ahead and start the next route, and that will be, let's see, what does it need to be this way? Well, yeah, there's only one way it can go. I would have to cut it going the opposite way to make the other one. So we'll follow this all the way around and come back to it. Okay, finished up putting the striping on, bringing over the Delta Flyer to see how it looks, and I declare it not wild about it. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't think I need to stripe all the way around the sides like I did. And I don't think that this stripe is, again, it's out of scale. You put a person on it, and that's roughly looks to be like a 2 foot wide strip in comparison. So I think what I'm going to do is take all those off and narrow down the size of them, which also would space them closer together. Just shrink down the whole thing. and then only, I think I'll use it as a template to paint rather than using this tape again. And what I'll do is I'll just paint, and I don't even know if I'm going to use yellow. Maybe I'll find another color. Maybe I'll go white. Now I got so much white going on with the flyer there. I said shuttle with the flyer there that that might be too much white. So maybe yellow is the best way to go. But yeah, I'm going to strip this off and redo it. But I wanted you to see it, you know, because like most things in life, you go through a couple of iterations before you hit on it. It's a work in progress. So yeah, let me back up and go to plan B. Ready, I've got the first bits templated off, masked off, ready to paint. And of course I'll pass on the secret, which is no secret whatsoever. If you're going to paint yellow over black, it's always best to paint white first. So I'm going to do a white pass on it, and then that'll make the yellow not have to work as hard to stand out against the black. I'm only doing the ones that go in this direction first. I'll let that dry, peel everything off, and then do the ones that go in the opposite direction. I was spending way too much time, wasting it, you might say. I was expending too much time and thought and energy about worrying about the corners and how everything matched up and making it perfect. Well, I'm just putting the pattern down, and we'll let it fall as it may. When it comes to doing the horizontal or the vertical pieces here, I will just line it up against it. I'm not going to try to weave any sort of intricate pattern into the corner. So now that I've got the masking down, let's do a pass of white and let that dry, and then we'll come back over with a pass or two of yellow. Okay, it's time to strip off the masks here. I'll take the paper tape off first. Save that one for later. These are good pieces of tape. Now strip these off and then let this dry. Oh, there you go. You get a nice clean line. A little bit better, better in scale, more realistic in scale. Don't have to worry about the tape peeling up. And we'll let that dry, go get some lunch, and then we'll come back and do the side pieces. These the other three, the horizontal, what I call the horizontals. These guys, this one, and that one. And I like it better not going down over the side. I think maybe that was a little overkill. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and finish it up. Okay, we're getting late in the afternoon on Tuesday, and time to wrap up for the day. I wanted to just do a quick recap of what we got done. Move this aside. After a false start, we got the caution tape down, or the caution painting done, and that looks pretty darn good. I like how that turned out. Much better the second time around. I did see some spots where the paint's a little hazy, not quite clean, but what I'm going to do is stick some set dressing on there and cover that up, and you're never going to notice it. So I'm going through and I'm cleaning up some of these storage boxes, storage crates, and we will be stacking these up. And I'm looking at for some of these where I can find the actual prop, like these buckets. Go ahead and paint those the color that I've seen. Some of these I'm just making up color or getting reasonable facsimiles of the color, and some of these I'm just playing with. Maybe do a little pyramid of these guys back here, stack those up. Yeah, that looks good. And put a couple of these bigger bins back here along the side with some smaller ones around. Haven't quite decided how many or where exactly these are all going to go, but something like that, I think. And then maybe stack some on top. Who knows? Put some of these barrels out in the front here. Need to paint some detail on those because everything's got a color stripe on it. Maybe I can put like something there and another one in front of that. So I'm having fun with set decorations at this point, but shuttle's ready to go. It's ready to sit down on top of it just like that. Last thing to do is to go ahead and glue down this canopy. Okay, so for the last act of today, I've got the canopy nailed down finally, and I'm going around and I'm very carefully trying to seal up the big old crack, crevices, seam, whatever you want to call it, gap. I'm using some white tulip, I'm using some plastic putty, I'm using some canopy glue. I'll use horsehair and gypsy wishes if I could. It's going to take everything, and it's going to be some touch-up painting to get it clean, but we're going to let that dry overnight and hopefully come back to it, and it'll be all nice and beautiful tomorrow. Good night. Good afternoon. Notice I did not say morning. Good afternoon. It's Wednesday. Had to do a bunch of errands this morning involving running over and getting the car serviced. It's been over a year since the last time it's needed it, so went ahead and got that done and stopped by the hobby shop and picked up some paints because I'm tired of this yellow, this lemon yellow. It's gloss. It's not flat yellow, and it's a primary color, and yet my local hobby store doesn't have it. All I have is this lemon yellow, which, like I said, is it's gloss and is not flat yellow. Come on, people, flat yellow, XF3. It's under 10. It's one of your basic colors, but they didn't have any, so had to go pick up some other paints, and I've decided, I think, on the number of cargo boxes and stuff, and where I'm going to hide the switch to turn it off and on, so that's good. So now I think it's just down to finishing this last bit, putting a final coat of clear. See, now overnight the tulip has dried, and this looks pretty good. I can see where touching up that brown around the canopy is going to be needed. Then a nice block on there, and then hit everything with the flat coat one last time. I've proven that if I paint these with the clear, to me a clear, not the clear red, the actual clear color, it glosses them, it glosses them back up, so I can do that one last time even after. So we're down to tiny touches now. We should be finished with this thing maybe even today, but I want to turn this thing upside down to finish the wiring on it first. Okay, it may not look like much from where you're sitting, but for me it's a measured bit of progress. This is done. I've got the final flat coat on the top of it. I've got the jack wired into the bottom of it. All I need to do is plop the Delta Flyer down on it and glue that down and do the final bit of wiring. But I've got the switch wired, I've got the jack wired. We're good to go now. I just need to put a nice little bit of camouflaged, I knew I had one of these little guys in here. Yeah, just a piece of little prop work here that I can use to kind of hide the switch underneath a piece of property. But now that's all I'm doing is I'm painting up these set dressings to get them ready to go. They're taking more work than they ought to. They're really not that big a, shouldn't be that important of a deal in the long run, but they are sucking up energy and time, so I just need to be finished with them. Morning and welcome back. It's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend, and we're coming down to the last days. Now, I'm telling you, I have been stretching this. It's not a stalling or anything, but yeah, this is week 3 on what should have been a 2-week project. So you could say I'm spinning my wheels a little bit, and that's never good because you either start adding things to a build that it doesn't really need, or you start overworking things, and I think that may be where I'm at. I've got the base done, wired wires. I'm working on some of the little accoutrements that are going to pepper around the base here. What I need to do now is to mount the ship down to the base because it has some wiring that has to feed through and get joined up. The problem with that is before I do that, I need to make sure that I am exceedingly happy with how everything is looking. I've got the back hatch on for like the 9th time. It keeps wanting to run away. It keeps wanting to break off and do its own thing. So I need to make sure that's glued down good and tight. And then the last bits of touch-up. I'm pondering things now, and this is what happens when you have too much time. I'm pondering things because this is exceedingly white, and I'm wondering if I couldn't just put just a streak of some schmutz just down the side, just a little bit of weathering. It's something you can only do once because decals and everything else are down, so I'm just wishing that there was a way that I can make all of these wonderful panel lines jump out a little bit better than they do. Maybe running a little fine line of not necessarily black, but just something to break it up. If I could smear some gray over it or a wash of something over it and then quickly wipe it off. Maybe I'll try something like that on the bottom side. If I try something like that on the underside, then I can determine if that's going to work without compromising the top. So let me flip this over, put it in my specially created cradle here, and see what it happens. Let me get this stand out of the way. That will help. Now let me see if I watered down some stuff and just wiped it into the panel lines here, how that would look. Experimenting away. I started by dirtying off the bottom of this a bit, and while it's true I would believe that Paris would treat this like a fire engine and would keep it clean and all of that, I can believe that it might get dirty, particularly on the bottom side where you might not be able to run it through the Delta Quadrant's version of a car wash. Plus, any atmospheric landings, anything like that, it's going to accrue a little bit more damage on the bottom side, a little bit more weathering on the bottom side than it might on the top. Plus, I think things like this just give it a little bit more life. So, very sparingly, just going in and adding some dirt at panel lines and things like that. And I can determine myself here what might be too much, and not duplicate those mistakes on the top. So happy with that, but it does show me that there is room for some weathering on the top. Going to be doing it very, very lightly. Very lightly. Just enough to show that it's been around the block more than once. Okay, at the risk of overdoing it, I've just put a little bit of some schmutz and some weathering in a couple spots here and there on the Delta Flyer, and now I think what I'd like to do is put a final flat coat over all of it to kind of seal everything in, and then we'll be ready to wire it down to the base. Okay, I've got a lot of cleanup to do here first, but I'd like to show you how the switch and the lighting came out. So here you go. Got the plug in the back, got this nice little cargo container up front, slide it to the side, boom, everything lights up. Let me kill the lights from the overhead. And just a little switch here, boom. Now I'll just have to make a final decision on a lot of this set dressing and get them glued down. But everything came out pretty good, I think. Some light blocking there that needs to get done around these marker lights. I thought I'd done a better job of it than that. So let me get out some tulip paint and take care of that. But pretty nifty. Good morning, it's Friday, it's the last work day of the week, and it is the last day on this Delta Flyer. I've said it before, but this time I mean it. I am finishing this thing today. I have only a scant few details left to put on this base, and deciding how much and how elaborate it's going to get. That's where I'm at right now. I've got the flyer is nailed down. I've got all the detail painting on it that I'm going to do. I've got some little crewmen to scatter around, and I've got some set decoration here to put down, and that is it. And once I've made myself happy with the amount of that and the painting thereof, then we will be finished. Like I said, this is the week 3 of a 2-week project. I have really been buttering this up as far as spending extra time on it. Okay, I've got all of the stage dressing done. All I've got left now is to glue down the little dudes, and I think we will be, and dudette, I think we will be ready to call this a done thing finally, and then we'll give it some last looks and plug it in and light it up. But I've got some other things here that I've painted and haven't decided whether I'm going to put them down yet or not. Whether or not it's just gilding the lily at this point. So let's go ahead, and I don't want, this is the nerve-wracking part, because these little dudes are not really meant to stand on their own. And it's going to be a question of putting some super glue or CA on their feet, and then holding their feet to the fire, so to speak, and dealing with them that way, because they were not printed with little bases or anything. So it's just a question of getting them stuck down. So let me do that, and then we will bring the camera out for one last go round. And here you go, ladies and gents. It's all finished. Finally, yay! All of the deck work has been finished, and let's light it up. You use the secret little cargo pod here, and you flick the switch. I know I tried to keep all of the star field in here, so please ignore that back corner. Here, maybe a little bit of that. But if we zoom in, we can see the interior there. Zoom back out. And let me pull the camera up so we can take a look at the cargo area / med bay in the back. Trying to darken down the room so you can get the full effect of it, but you can see into the med bay, right in through there. Pull the, let me see if I can zoom in. See, we have an officer at the back doing some readings. There you go. And the more that you can look around in there, the more detail you can see that is lighting up, even to the back consoles there. It's difficult to get a camera in there. Don't blame the camera this time. The camera's on the tripod. It's me that's moving around. Yeah, I got some nasty light leakage going on there. I just need to touch that with some white paint. But yeah, I'm going to have to take the camera off the stand here for a second. You can look all the way in to that back corridor and then see the lights on the med bed, and then into that wall there. But adding the little dudes and dudette added some well-needed, well-wanted, well-deserved life to this bay. And the last tiniest detail was to add some of the miscellaneous decals to the containers there. And I just did a little scratch work with an X-Acto to kind of bring out some bork detail there. There's a more head-on view. But we have a very nice Delta Flyer in situ in the shuttle bay, or in a maintenance bay on Voyager. Again, from the fine folks at Cosmic Scale Models. Well, that brings us to the end of a 3-week build that really should have been a 2-week build, but I got carried away on the base. People have often said I ought to be carried away, but there you go. And there's one last look up towards the back. I really like this kit. It really grew on me. And I think that we're looking at right here is the future of 3D printed model kits. And importantly, the thing that Keith seems to know that a lot of other people don't is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You treat it like a you treat it like a styrene kit. You make parts that go together. You put alignment pins in them. Yes, I would have liked to have this broken down into yet more parts so that I could really have gotten in there and sanded on it, but that'll come, but the more people start thinking this way and less of, well, you know, I could print it all as one piece and, you know, hand it to you, then the better off we're going to be. I mean, there's a difference between a 3D printed statue and a 3D printed model, and I tend to lean more towards the model. Now, it does have its uses when you are talking about figure kits. If you want to minimize the number of seam lines, particularly in a figure, in a person, then that makes all the sense in the world to print as much of it as possible, as long as you don't create some impossible pose that you can't get in and around and paint it. But I'm getting off topic. So this was the Delta Flyer, basically 3 kits here: the interior, or the shell, the interior, and then the miscellaneous greeblies. Now, I did scratch build some of these. These are not all available through Keith. I scratch built the tubes here, and yeah, these posts here I scratch built, and the pipes and such. The easy stuff. Everything else was printed from Keith's designs. But there you go. Look straight down the barrel of that, and I'm looking straight up the other barrel into that interior. It didn't turn out nearly as dark as I was fearing it was going to. I probably could have cut down on some of that lighting, but you know me, I am going to overlight something if I have the chance. So until next week, when who knows what we'll be building. I really don't, I have the slightest half of a clue, but I really don't have a great idea about what we're going to be doing next time. So join me together and we will all find out what that's going to be. So until next week, be good to each other, be safe, be smart, take your shot as soon as you can get it, and we'll all see you here next week.